Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. First of all, apologies for the crazy hair this morning. It's quite humid and I don't know why it's all suddenly decided to stand up on end after washing it this morning, but I'm sure you won't mind too much. So yeah, this is another episode of Freebie Friday, or it should be Freebies today. I have a few to offer you. What I'd like to say as well though is if anyone else would like to join me in this little project of just reading one or two or as many as you like books that you can find on Project Gutenberg or other public domain sites, and then reviewing them so people can maybe be introduced to things that otherwise they wouldn't be introduced to, and also that for what they can get, which they can get for free, then feel free to join me. Send me an email or a message or something like that, and we'll make a hashtag or something, and it's kind of fun. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I mean, I've read now 4 books. I've got three offers, as I say, today, and I read 4 books so far from these public domain websites. I'm not saying they're all great. There might be a reason as to why they are quite obscure, some of them, but it's still a lot of fun just kind of going through them and seeing kind of what's out there. Right then, so today the first one I've got for you, and by the way, all the links to downloading these books, I mean, they're not all books actually, a lot of them are short stories, but they've been uploaded, I suppose, as just individual novellas, books, or whatever, the files that you can just download. So the first one I've got for you is called Tomorrow the World! And it's by a writer called Robert W. Krebs, and it was published in Imagination Science Fiction magazine in 1951. And this was a strange one, I have to say. I kind of enjoyed it, and it had a little bit spine-tingling end, actually. What it is there's this writer who falls asleep inside a natural history museum, and when he wakes up he just feels not quite himself, and the museum's already closed at this point, and a guard comes along to kind of tell him to get out, what the hell are you doing here, kind of thing, and they get into an altercation, and the main character ends up killing him, like snapping his neck or something like that, and he's wondering where the powers come from and this kind of thing. And as he goes, he basically ends up going on this kind of killing spree, killing people with his bare hands, and there's a manhunt and this kind of thing, and he feels this kind of strange primordial power deep within him. He thinks he's some kind of vampire maybe, or werewolf, or bizarrely even a lost member of the Pict people of Britain, and all sorts of things, until he meets a group of similar people who explain to him exactly what he is. And it was interesting. I mean, it probably could have been developed maybe a bit more, and I mean, I know it was only a short story from a magazine, but I would say if you like 50s sci-fi things, or something a bit different, a bit of kind of I don't know if is it really sci-fi, I suppose. Yeah, it's not fantasy, but if you like that sort of thing with monsters or that and that kind of thing, then I would say it's worth giving it a go. I mean, it's really short. It's only I don't know, maybe 20 something pages, and it's free, and it's just a bit of fun. Yeah, so Tomorrow the World by Robert W. Krebs. The next one is called Vampire Queen, and it's by Thornton Eyre, and that's his pen name. The author's real name is John Russell Fern, and he's got a load of stories on another public domain page called The Faded Page, which I'll leave a link to at the bottom. This was published in 1942, and this again was a strange one. It was only about 25 pages, I think. I'm not quite sure where the name comes from, Vampire Queen. All the while is expecting this woman in the story to kind of you know, snap his neck or drink his blood and all that kind of stuff. But actually, it's a sci-fi, I don't know if thriller's the right word. It's a sci-fi story set. There's like an interplanetary police force, and the main character's boss tells him to watch this particular woman because she's involved in some nefarious activities, and he kind of sneaks on board as on board her spaceship as a laborer, and they find out that her and her partner are involved in some illegal mining on Jupiter of a particular element. I can't remember what it is. I don't think it's not a real one. And she's like using slave labor of the little people who live on Ganymede and sending them down to Jupiter. And of course they die every time they come up because of the what do you call it? I don't know, the gravitational pull or the atmospheric changes or that kind of thing. And again, it was quite readable. I mean, it was a bit silly at times, and the writing was, you know, probably what you'd expect from this kind of, you know, thing published in a magazine. As I said, it's 1942 though, and it was quite good, and it was interesting to see why this woman was so cold-hearted to be able to do this to the little green Ganymedians, and you know, there's some reason behind that, and you know, and it was all right. It was all right. I mean, I don't regret reading it at all. So that was Vampire Queen, but be aware, as far as I can tell, there weren't really any vampires in it. So, you know, but yeah. And the last one I have for you is called Billy Whiskers in France by Francis Traeger Montgomery. And this was a children's book published in 1919. Apparently it's volume number 21 in the series, so she was quite prolific. And I was surprised to find she doesn't actually have a Wikipedia page. Maybe she's just too old. I mean, she lived quite a long time ago. Well, 1858 she was born and died in 1925. So I suppose, you know, it's not maybe surprising she's forgotten, especially if she did only write children's book and stuck pretty much to this series. She wrote books called The Wonderful Electric Elephant, Billy Whiskers, The Autobiography of a Goat, Billy Whiskers Kids, On a Lark to the Planets, Billy Whiskers Jr., Billy Whiskers Friends, Billy Whiskers Jr. and His Chums, Billy Whiskers Travels. You get the picture. Pigs and Piggles, Zip, The Adventures of a Frisky Fox Terrier, and of course the one I'm reviewing, Billy Whiskers in France. I started off enjoying it, and then if I'd stopped there, I would have said, you know, oh, actually it's really interesting. You could download it and read it to your kids. They'd find it funny and good. However, I'm glad I continued with it because, you know, it's not for today's children. There would be a lot of things that would upset, well, not just children, anybody. You know, there is because it's written and set during the First World War. It's got a bit of jingoism, patriotism. You know, she's quite quick to call them filthy Germans and that kind of stuff. She talks about one particular incident when Billy Whiskers and his friends, he's got two friends, Stubby, who's a dog, and Buttons, who's a cat with big black eyes, and they go on all their adventures together. But there was one incident where they were in San Francisco, I think in about, is it 1905, the big earthquake, just before that, and Billy gets captured in this alleyway by some Chinese people in Chinatown, but of course she refers to them as Chinamen, which isn't acceptable, of course, today. And she's, you know, a bit racist in the way that she writes their dialogue. You know, it's very simplistic and mocks, of course, their difficulty in pronouncing certain letters in English. So it's like, me like goat, me here, it's very, very good, and this kind of thing, which, you know, isn't acceptable today. I hope people don't mind that I quoted it. I was just kind of telling you what was in it. And I think there'd actually be some upsetting things for kids. It's quite violent. I mean, you know, these animals get involved in the war, and there's like a hospital for sick animals who got injured, who got blown up. I mean, Billy himself had his tail blown off. You know, if you wanted to download it and read it to your children, but not let them see what you were actually saying and just kind of modifying those bits yourself, which I think you could do if you were reading it, wouldn't take any effort on your part. It's quite nice. I mean, it's quite interesting that the fact that there's a whole series of stories about this goat, and you know that he's so patriotic, and that there's a lot of American patriotism in it. I have to say, it's like, you know, we're lucky enough to be born in God's country, you know, the US of A, and this kind of stuff, which I understand because of the time it's written, and you know, might have been kind of, you know, she's probably writing it while the war was on, so it might have even acted as a bit of war propaganda, perhaps, you know, for the kids. Again, you know, if I take all those things out of the equation, you know, I didn't mind it. You know, I'm lucky. There's nothing in there that really would have offended me personally, but offends me, of course, as a human being. And what else? Was there anything else I wanted to say about it? I mean, there are some funny moments, definitely. They get into all sorts of scrapes and fixes and things like that. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. So, I mean, you know, I'm not super enthusiastic about any of them. However, if you want to try something a bit different, then, you know, I will leave the links below for all of them, and say that, you know, you're not losing anything by just checking things out and making up your own minds about them. So that's my humble offering for today's Friday freebie. And next week I hope to be back with maybe some more exciting choices, perhaps. So yeah, I'm sure you all want to head off and download these right now. But I would say, if you're going to download one of them, download Tomorrow the World. It's got something. It's got something in it, definitely. And as I say, I would have been curious maybe to see it built on, and I like the premise of it. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.